Well, welcome everybody. Today, we get to spend some time with Nina. And Nina, I'd love you just to start with your story, because you started out on the East Coast, you now live on the West Coast, and you've held a bunch of positions within this industry. So kind of walk us through your journey.
Yes, listen, I am an East Coast girl living in a West Coast world for sure. I am East Coast through and through. I'm from Pennsylvania. I owned a salon in Pennsylvania, and I have been in this business for 25 years. And I think this coming year, maybe in my 26th year, but we'll stay at 25. It's good. I like that number. I've just been fortunate to be able to work in many different facets of this business. I was a hairstylist behind the chair for about 20 years. I was a commissioned salon owner because I was based in Pennsylvania for 11 years. I had an incredible team of stylists and had some good moments as an owner and made a lot of mistakes as an owner, and ended up selling that salon business because it was profitable and it was time for me to do what I wanted to do, which is this. So I sold my business in 2016. But I also, before that, had amazing mentors that I worked with for about 8 years. I worked with their, I worked with their company, and I was a hairstylist with them. I was a manager with them. I was a district manager with them. So I had 8 locations, 55 employees. And then I was a business partner with them in a journey adventure. We opened up a chain of salons in the South Florida, West Palm Beach area. And so that was first. And I learned everything that I could learn from them, and spend so much time just watching them. And man, it was like college education times 10, And so after I left them, probably 2004, 2005-ish, I decided to go on my own. And that's when I started my salon, and, did that for 11 years and just felt like it was time. I always knew that I wanted to remove myself from behind the chair eventually and start my own consulting business. It took me a lot longer to get to that point than I wanted it to initially. But now I have my own, consulting company, and I work with salon owners and hairstylists and help them build their business, but also build their confidence. And I've been doing that over 5 years now. So I'm just fortunate to get to do what I love every single day with amazing people, starting with you guys, right? And that's why we're here today. So very, very fortunate and very blessed.
Nina, I love that you said college education times 10. So I want to talk about this because Sean and I, when we meet our brand new classes in our Paul Mitchell schools, about 9 out of 10 hands go up of people that want to own salons. And they're basically, many of them will say, I'm going to own it right away. In fact, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to get my business degree. And then they're like, and then I'm going to open my salon. But can you talk about being a great follower first before you can actually be a great leader? Because obviously you've been an incredible follower. You helped open a chain of salons, been in a distributorship, worked for people. Talk about that, why that is a prerequisite to leadership.
Listen, I live for this question, and I just shared something about this last week on my Instagram, talking about not rushing your journey in this business. Like, everybody's so anxious and excited, which is good to be excited about becoming an owner or going into rent or going into a suite and having this title of being a salon owner. But let me tell you, being a salon owner, whether you are a solopreneur and doing the rental thing, or you would like to open up a rental salon or commission salon, being a business owner is incredibly hard. And it's very rewarding. Don't get me wrong, but I couldn't do what I do now if I didn't learn from my mentors that did it before me and spent 8 years, literally day in and day out with them. Like, we lived together for a minute when we were starting the salons in Florida. I was literally with them every single day. And to watch people who opened up a chain of 200 salons do it and make a profit, that was a gift. That was a true gift. So I believe mentorship is a gift, and it's so important to find your person and find your mentor and find your salon home and find someone that can show you the ropes, show you the mistakes that they made, so you can actually maybe shorten your span of time from wanting to go from being a hairstylist to an owner. You still got to put in the work, but maybe that mentor could help you shorten the time a little bit from making those same mistakes. And I think our business is all about learning. It's about relationships and it's about learning and always being on the side of accepting education. And it's really hard to come out of school and be a hairstylist and a business owner. Mm-hmm. Can it happen? Yes. And I know people who have done it, and they're doing great, but it's really not for everyone. I think even the people who did it still have a mentor. They still have someone that's coaching them and working with them. And I think sometimes it's great to be the sponge and sit back and absorb information. And then you can figure out the direction that you want to take, because that direction may change as you absorb that mentorship and that education. Very, very important part of growth for sure.
I love that. You said that you realized it was time for you to remove yourself from behind the chair. What was that process like? Because we get that a lot, where owners are at that point where it's like, I don't want to be behind the chair anymore. However, if I remove myself, there's no money coming in because I bring all the money in, but I also want to grow a team. Like, I think we get to that spot a lot. So what advice, or when did you know, or what steps did you take?
Well, it's a long process. If you want to do it the right way, it's a long process. And I think that, my goal was to be removed from behind the chair by year 5. Well, if you know anything about me and you follow me, you know that the first 5 years of my business were a total shit show. Can I curse?
Yeah.
It was a disaster. Let's just say that. Yeah. First 5 years was a total disaster because I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't have the right people in place when it came to like CPAs and guidance financially, but it was my responsibility. I made poor financial decisions. So when it came to, I had a pivot, right? And I think you have to be flexible in your timeline, right? Mine was 5 years and it ended up being almost 9 when I was ready. I would give yourself you should always have an exit strategy for your business. And exit doesn't mean you're going to remove it and sell it. The exit strategy could also be meaning you are removing yourself from being the sole breadwinner in the business. And so I think a 2-year strategy or even a 3-year strategy is fair. And I think when you're thinking about positioning yourself away from the chair, you have to really understand what the financial piece looks like. Because in my case, I was the breadwinner in my business. But let me tell you something, I had stylists that came in that were way more talented than me. I wanted that. They were way more, smarter than me in a lot of ways when it came to being a hairstylist behind the chair, ideas, creatively, marketing, all of those things. And when my first thoughts of when am I going to do this, my initial thought was, how do I care for my team in the process, right? So you have to understand the financial component for the business, which means looking at your profit margin, looking at the portion of your business that you're bringing in terms of your sales, right? And what is that going to look like when now you take, let's just say $100,000 if you're bringing in, if you take that 100,000 now, which is going into the business and typically back into the business, now you're going to be splitting that with your stylists, whether it's 40%, 45%, whatever your commission structure is like. So you have to understand that the stylists are going to have to bring in way more money than you to offset that cost to even break even. So there's a big financial piece to it, but it's also understanding that you have to elevate the team. You have to continue to grow them and nurture them and educate them and support them so they can be ready and prepared to take on your clients. Because that's what happened to me. I was a matchmaker. Okay, Judy, you're going to go to Sarah, and I think you're going to be a fit for Elaine, and you're going to be great with Danica. Like, you have to walk the client through it, but you have to have your team supported enough to feel like they can take on the clients and they feel confident about it. So there's a financial aspect to it. There's a time period to it. There's the communication with the client. That's a whole other thing, right? Because you want to be fair with them so they understand what's going on. And then it is making sure that the team feels confident and supported and they're excited. I think clear communication with the team is so important in this this aspect. And then what your new role is going to be. What is your new role going to be as the leader of the business? Because if you're the owner, yes, you're the face of the business, but that will never change. It will shift though. Because now people aren't coming in and saying, I want Nina to do my hair. No, anyone on Nina's team can do my hair, right? Anyone. And that's what we're the shift that we're looking for. So those are the first couple things that come to my mind, but be prepared to have it be a process. It doesn't happen overnight. Clear communication is key, and a strategy, financial strategy, is even more key, because your profit margin will take a hit. Typically, the profit margin takes a hit, and you have to be able to sustain that. And it can be scary, but with a clear strategy, you're going in the right direction.
Yeah, and what you're really talking about here, this financial strategy, is the true freedom that you can really have. And you kind of mentioned financial peace, which you were saying PIECE, that piece, but I want to talk about financial peace, PEACE, because what we're talking about here is you're running a business. And a lot of people think a business owner is a solopreneur. But the problem is you don't have anybody to hand the baton to as a solopreneur. So let's back up for a second, because I'll ask my students again, how many of you want to own a business? And then many of them, quite a few of them, Nina, want to own their own salon suite, and they also want to work out of their home. Mm-hmm. And so, but then when I start to really talk about true freedom, let's talk about true freedom and true financial peace, PEACE, then we're talking about owning a business. And when I say that to them, they're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I want. It's like, okay, then why are you doing the salon suite route? That doesn't make any sense to me. And so can you talk to that newer stylist or someone that's really thinking about this as a career? Like, what would be the best avenue for them?
I feel like you guys maybe stalk my Instagram a little bit, because I literally just posted this morning about DMs that I get. Nina, I'm graduating school. Should I rent or should I go into a commission salon? I just posted this. So I believe that there is not a one size fits all in this business in the way that anyone is running their business. I do believe that there are stylists that love being in a suite setting. That's their jam. They feel good in that environment. They like a little bit more of an intimate space. However, you are still running a business. Just because you're coming out of school and you have the knowledge of how to do hair, that's 20% of it. 80% of it is actually knowing what your marketing strategy is, what your financials look like, how much money you need, how much cushion you have in order to, withstand if anything, God forbid, were to happen, what your numbers are, making sure that you understand what your standard is, your brand is. There's a lot of components to it. So I'm necessarily not opposed to someone coming out of school and going on their own. However, you have to treat it like a business. And that means you get a business plan. You run a marketing strategy. You are running your financials. You're running your numbers. You know what your costs are going to be. You make sure that you have 3 to 6 months of business expenses put aside. We're not just going into this with your stylist hat. You're going into this with your business hat. So I'm not opposed to it as long as you're prepared. And that's what I was speaking about this morning. On the flip side of that, I live for an assistant and an associate program. I live for it because it's what I did in my salon business, because it gives the opportunity to stylists that are coming out of school to understand the creative side, the standards, and the business all in one from a mentor. So there is so much to learn in this business. I'm 25 years in, I'm still learning every single day. And so it's hard to say that you're going to know how to do hair, how to understand refunds, reservices, how to understand, what a brand looks like and how to create a marketing strategy to get clients and then run the financial part of it right out of school. To me, it seems very overwhelming. Can it be done? Absolutely, it can be done. Yes. But the people who are doing it are prepared and they do their research and they are treating it like a business. The associate program, assistant program, owners that are listening, create a strategy and assistant program that mentors your new team members and has a growth strategy for them, not only 1 year, 2 years, but has a growth strategy for them that's going to show them how much money they can make, how they can create their own financial freedom. And listen, if then they want to go off on their own after they get their feet wet and they have all of the tools that they need and now they're prepared because of their mentor, then we send them off with love, right? So I think that I'm not opposed to either way, but what I don't care for is going in unprepared to rent, whether it's a chair or a suite, and you're winging it. It's too risky financially, and it can be, it can kind of like muddy up your experience per se, getting into the business if you go in like feet first without a parachute. Then after a year, you're like, is this really for me? I don't know. I've made, I'm not making money. I don't have a marketing. I thought it was going to be easy and it isn't. Do I really want to even now stay in the business? Right. So I think we have to think about it from both sides. And if you know me and listen to me, I always give both sides because I know that there isn't a one size fits all, but I do live for an associate program. I think it's very important for salon owners to mentor their team continuously, both business and personally, because I'm all about servant leadership. So business and personally.
What I love there is you went to a topic that I wanted you to talk about, because I love listening to you talk about it, is when you're mentoring your team in one-on-ones, because you talk a lot about one-on-ones and what that looks like. And I know over time, you've shifted my mindset on how to lead a strong one-on-one. So will you kind of share a little bit of, because you talked about growing the team and communication, and you give perfect examples.
Thanks. Sure. I love it. I live for a one-on-one too. Like, I think it's so important to create the relationships that go deeper, and that by deeper, I mean, create trust and loyalty. When you're a salon owner and you have a team of people, your responsibility is to invest in that team individually and as a team. And the one-on-one coaching sessions are important because it allows you to get to see your team individually, what they love, what they don't love, both business and personal, because I'm all about coaching to their dreams. You have to coach to their dreams, what they're looking to achieve. And so in one-on-ones, it's a quiet, secure, safe space for them to talk to you. These one-on-ones happen every single month for about 1 hour. And yes, we're talking about numbers. Yes, we're talking about strategies. Yes, we're talking about and comparing where they are to where they want to be, and where they, are aiming for, the sky, of course. And we're guiding them. We're asking questions. We're saying, hey, you did really great in your pre-booking, but I really want to focus on your average ticket. Let's look at that. Let's look at your client retention, right? Where do you need help? How can I serve you? Do you need help with consultations? Let's do some role playing, run through it, right? We're always thinking the mindset of the leader is, how can I serve? How can I help? Because the more you help and serve your team, the more they turn around and serve your clients, right? And so when you serve your team, people focus on the money. I need to make money. I need to make money. Absolutely, you need to make money. You're in business. But the best investment you can ever make, and it doesn't really cost much, is investing in your team individually every month and working on a strategy that helps them create their business goals and achieve them, and their personal goals. And I think allowing them to share about their life, like, hey, what's going on? Tell me what's going on in the salon. Is there anything you want to get off your chest? Tell me, because they see things that you don't see. You're so busy with the vision of the business. So we see sometimes far and wide, you know what I mean? So when you have team members, they see the details, which are very, very important. And so having honest conversations, it builds loyalty and trust. And we've got to lead from a space of care, compassion, and empathy, especially now. We have to be understanding, and we have to be empathetic to people's feelings. And I think that leadership is the foundation to a successful business. If we could get that right, along with the systems and the processes and all of the other things, leadership is really putting the team first, and you have to make the time to do it, because nobody else can. Nobody else is going to coach your team. Nobody else is going to love on them. No one else is going to hold them accountable, right? You've got to do it. You've got to make time for that. And in my opinion, I feel that's where we're struggling a little bit as an industry.
Yeah,
The
I
leadership
agree.
component.
I love that you said, especially now.
Mhm.
And so let's talk about that, because that's an area that I'm really working on growing my skill set of really understanding mental health. And so I'm studying a lot more of that information right now and understanding like exactly what it is. I have an incredible book that has an assessment. It's kind of right along the lines of the Strength Finder assessment, but it's creating a well-being culture. And so it's shifting my mindset quite a bit. And I love where you're going with this. Can you talk about the especially now part?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of trauma that's happened over the past 2 years, you know, to everyone, and everybody's coming from a different space. And some have been rocked financially, some have been rocked emotionally, some have lost their businesses, some had to convert their business, some had to sell. There's a lot of shifting and moving within the industry. And it's really hard, you know, when you're working with people and you are spending time with people like we do behind the chair. There was no other industry. Like my husband works in corporate America. He doesn't understand. He's like, you always say you have to love the people that you work with. And I said, yeah, because I'm with them side by side every single day. We are a very emotional business. We cater to people on a different level. And so we have to start looking at our stylists, our team members as humans first. They're humans first. You don't know what they've gone through. Maybe you do, depending on the relationship, but there are a lot of things that happen at home that have happened over the past 2 years that we may not even be aware of. And people react sometimes in a way that may be out of character because of the pain that they're feeling. We need to talk about that. You know, what is that pain that you're feeling? What is it that you have been carrying? I want to walk through that with you because I don't want you to be alone. That is a whole other layer of leadership that I feel is so incredibly important. And it's the compassionate side. It's the humility. It is just being human, right? And treating other people like humans. It doesn't mean that people get to do whatever they want. It doesn't mean that they don't perform. It doesn't mean that they don't show up on time. It means that we have to give people grace sometimes, and we have to coach them in a little bit of a different way, because people are still coming back from the trauma that they endured over the last 2 years. And honestly, a lot of people haven't been dealing with it. Right. Their reaction tells the story. So when you have a stylist or a receptionist or an assistant that reacts, we've got to look at it on a deeper level. Where is that coming from? What place of pain and hurt is that coming from? Let's talk about that, because that will help you. It builds trust, number one, because I'm just a human that I care about another human. Business and numbers aside, right? And I think we just need a little bit more of that to nurture people back into focusing on performance and focusing on numbers, but we've got to care for them as humans first.
One of the things that I just love you in general.
Thank you.
But you talked about that we're humans first, and you've talked a lot about, going back to the one-on-ones, when you talk about goals and numbers, you always attach them to what they want. So talk a little bit about that, because that has totally switched my mindset on, you need to hit this number. It's more so, how can we help you get what you want? So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. I think part of the coaching process and getting to know someone is, what are your dreams? What are your goals? Aside from being here in the business, because I'm going to help you work on that. But what do you aspire to be? Do you want to own a home? Do you want to put money aside for college funds for your children? Do you want to get out of debt, which is a really big piece of that? And I used to help my team members get out of debt. It was very important for me to help them do that while I was also struggling, because I was in debt too, right? And I was honest about it. I think that when you understand what the team individually is working toward, So let's just say that someone wants to get out of debt, right? They're $10,000 in debt, and we're not financial advisors by any means, right? You're not giving out full-blown financial strategies here. We're just saying, I love you. I know that this weight is heavy carrying this debt. I can see it. Let's talk about a 2-year, a 3-year, a 5-year plan to get you out of that $10,000 in debt. And now my goal as a leader, every time we have a one-on-one coaching session and we talk about numbers, we're going to say, okay, Kelly, your goal is to get out of debt by year 3. So this is the amount of money we have to put aside. This is what we have to make sure that we're doing to allocate that money in a certain way to pay for the debt. This is how much money you need to bring in here in the salon, and this is where you're at. So what can I do to help you bridge the gap? Right? What can I do to help you elevate the guest experience, have a better client consultation, which will increase client retention? What can I do? Because if you try to coach someone to your own dream, they're not invested. Right. Overall, they're part of your dream because they're a part of your brand. But when we're one-on-one coaching, it's more personal. It's business and personal, but it's like, what do you want and need? And then every single time, okay, we're 6 months in, let's reevaluate. How much closer are you to getting out of that $10,000 in debt? If you're crushing your numbers, you're doing really well. Can we take you to the next level where now maybe instead of putting $300 away toward your debt, we could put $400 away, which will accelerate you from 3 years being out of debt to maybe 2.5, right? So it's constant reminder of that goal and dream. And man, when you listen, I still have visions of my team to this day. And it's been since 2016 is when I sold my salon. I still have visions of them. Actually, it gets me emotional, of working with them to buy their homes, working with them to get investment properties, working with them to get out of debt, working with them to reach $100,000, $120,000 in sales, whatever that looks like. That is the reward for being a leader in this business. Yes, you want to make money for yourself and have peace, like Tina says, PEACE. Mm-hmm. However, the goal is to watch the team thrive and flourish and grow, because when you have team members that feel supported in their dream, they will show up for you every single time. They will go to bat for you because you're going to bat for them. And listen, people just want someone to be in their corner. They just want someone to listen to them, and they want someone to be in their corner. So when you invest that hardcore into someone, and listen, this is a lot. It's a lot. You're giving, like I was tired all the time, but it was my responsibility to put my energy into them, to watch them thrive and grow. And in return, I knew the business would grow. It's a roundabout way to getting your dreams met, right?
Yeah. Motive matters. It really does. And that'll give you the sustainability into the business. And if it's all about you, you're not going to last very long in this business. But when it's all about others, you're going to last because the reason is so much bigger. And so it really is about motive. And I love that we're kind of going there with this financial piece thing, because very interesting enough, I just met a woman leader, a leading lady group, and she was asking me to speak at her retreat here coming up. And it's not for hairdressers, it's actually for entrepreneurs. And so I'm kind of excited to do that. But I also found out that she's a financial advisor and she does workshops. And I thought, man, this is perfect, because, you know, I tell you, if you can help your team to really understand money, because it's an area that I'm not really willing to go there with them as an owner. First of all, I don't have that much time with them. And then second of all, I don't have that much expertise. You know, I'm married to a man that keeps me in budget. I'm partnered with Sean Chido, who keeps me in budget. You know, otherwise I'm going to be just like every other salon owner and spending so much money that I put myself out of business. And so can you kind of talk a little bit about that, of why it's so important to help your team members with money, and what advice do you give as far as salon owners bringing in someone to run financial workshops for them as well too? And you know, actually the cool thing is we've actually been able to give simple IRAs to our team members as well. Some of our companies, we have 401ks, but in our salons it's simple IRAs, and they're just like, oh my God, I'm 20 years old and I'm investing in my retirement already. And this is unheard of. And you don't hear this from solopreneurs, right? But you hear this from, obviously employees, right? Because they have this opportunity. But as you know, in our companies, you also have the opportunity to become a partner in our companies as well, too. So talk a little bit about that piece as well.
So when it comes to money in your business, the first thing, the ground floor of it is understanding your own money story and understanding your own relationship with money. And I talk a lot about that in one of my courses, because I think it's so incredibly important to understand how money makes you feel, because a lot of times we put our own money story and our own money situations off to our clients. That's why a lot of times we spend their money, because we're not right within ourselves when it comes to our own money story and how it makes us feel. And so first and foremost, you've got to get that right within you. And it's understanding your own money story, understanding how money makes you feel, and understanding where it's all coming from. And then what you've been taught and told, is it reality about money? Because we get told a lot of, our beliefs, and a lot of them may be negative, right? And so that's first and foremost. When you're teaching your team, when it comes to money, the financial aspect of it is getting out of debt and investing. It's living for today, but saving for tomorrow. And I wish somebody would have shared a lot more of that information with me, because I would have not been $90,000 in debt, but that was part of my money story. Those were my own beliefs. And as much as I wanted to not be like my parents when it came to money, because I kept saying, I don't want to be, I became. I didn't change the patterns and behaviors that were taught to me. I just thought by saying, I don't want to be that, I don't want this to happen, that it would change. And so unfortunately, I became what I saw until I changed my own patterns and behaviors. So when you're working with your team, and this takes time, I don't recommend, I recommend you work on this stuff when they're with you at least 6 months or so. You got to get a good solid foundation with the team first. But them understanding that sales are amazing, but what's left at the end of the day is important. Right now, they're not going to know what your profit and loss is. That's none of their business. But for them, it's their paycheck is important, but what they're doing with their money is even more important. Right? Where are they spending that money? Are they investing? Are they paying off their debt? Because you should really do both, saving and getting paid, getting out of debt. You should be doing both simultaneously. And then where can you invest? So I think it is getting yourself right first and feeling good about it. Bringing in people in is very important. I love Dave Ramsey. I love what he talks about when it comes to money. Also, I have a CPA that comes in and teaches in my courses. Her name is Michelle Cook, and you can find her at Small Business CPA on Instagram. She's amazing. Hire in someone that you trust. You have to have a good CPA in your business. You have to. And then they're going to teach you things and guide you through your own business and your profit and loss statements and your financials, which then you can, spill over onto the team. Find a financial a financial advisor, someone that can help you invest your money. And then what you learn, then you can offer 401ks and IRAs and talk about that stuff and bring people in and invite them in, because that's the stuff that we really need to be providing for our team members now is yes, we want to make money, but what are we doing with that money and how can we invest that money?
Absolutely. It's a true business that way.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that we've talked so much about teams and growing the teams, but you said something there that I want you to kind of expand on. You said you have to build the foundation before you go into anything else. It starts with that foundation of that team. And we know you and I have talked about the hiring challenge that we're facing. So kind of talk through, how do you build that foundation and that trust and that safety with your team?
So in terms of bringing new people in or
keeping the ones that you have, I think it's when do you know, you said you got to build that foundation for 6 months before you start talking about a financial advisor. So what does that process look like of building that safety and foundation?
Absolutely. So the foundation is built on trust. And if you don't spend time with your team individually, you don't get to build trust. Follow through is 1000% the most important thing you have to do as an owner. If you promise they're going to get Saturdays off when they hit XYZ, you better do it. If you promise that they're going to get a raise when they move through their growth strategy, it better happen. If you promise that you're going to have a group dinner date and it's coming up because you guys reach a goal, you better go to dinner. You have to make sure that you follow through, because on their side, they're building trust with you too. Do I trust this person? Do I trust this owner? Do they say what they're going to do? That's part of it. And the other side is for you, to build trust within them. Are they showing up on time? Are they doing what they promised? Because we both have to promise in getting into this relationship, which is leader and team member. It's like a relationship like any other. So each has to come to the table with what they promised. So building that foundation is one-on-one sessions. But for the first 90 days, we do 10-minute, 15-minute check-ins every week. For the first 90 days, we check in every week, 10, 15 minutes. Hey, how's it going? What's going on? How can I support you? Are you feeling comfortable? Do you need help with the front desk? Do you need help with the computer? What do you need? What do you need? How can I serve you? So those 10, 15-minute check-ins every week happen for the first 90 days. And then because the first 90 days too, they're just kind of getting used to being in the salon. It's overwhelming, right? And then after that 90 days, then we start to see their personality and the performance happen, right? Now we get to see, okay, their creative side comes out, the personality comes out, they feel a little bit more comfortable, and your job is making them feel safe and supported through it, right? So you're just building these layers upon layers of, it's just communication, right? And it's through the 15-minute chats, it's through team meetings, it's through them honestly seeing how that you react with other and respond to other team members in a team setting, right? Are you the solution or are you the problem in your business? Are you talking about other people? Are you coaching people in front of other stylists? Like, these are things that are done behind the scenes. So you have to self-assess before you, again, you're building that foundation. It's constant self-assessment. What can I do better? How can I listen better? How can I communicate better? Right? How can I learn more to be better, And I think that that's where the foundation comes from. It is just constantly building trust. And it's like any relationship over time will help with trust, but the follow through as a leader is key. If you can't follow through, don't talk about it. Mm-hmm. If you can't follow through, don't talk about it, because man, it takes months and months and months to build trust, but it takes one thing and seconds to ruin that trust with someone. And it is very, very hard to get it back. It really, truly is. So that's kind of the foundation. It's always coaching and guiding and mentoring and educating. It's like laying bricks, one upon the other.
Yeah. I love that you're talking about constant self-assessment. And Sean and I are both DISC personality coaches and trainers. And one of the things that I have found, that high I on the DISC scale, which I am a high I, lacks follow through. And so can you talk about that? Because I think there's a lot of salon owners out there that are high I's, right? They're the big talkers, right? And so they love people. They're the people, they're creative, and they're incredible hairstylists as well too. And so it's super fun to watch, but it's also super sad to watch because they lack that follow through, and they lack keeping the meetings too, because they love change and they don't really like sticking to meetings, right? And doing these one-on-ones, right? That's more of a C style. So in the beginning, I brought along people like Sean to be in those meetings with me to track what they were saying. And then it was like, then Sean had to grow through the company. And then I had to realize, man, I'm going to have to take on some of this my own, and or hire virtual assistants. So can you talk tangibly how you can follow through and what advice you give people? I know for me, I use Trello.com now, Dana, and I've been able to follow through much easier with my team members and on the conversations that we've had, like, let's back up. We need to go back to this task, or we need to go back to this conversation. It's right there blaring me, and I can star it and that kind of thing. Tangibly, what advice do you give to those owners that lack follow through?
Sure. I mean, the first thing when you're having a meeting, whether it be one-on-one or a team meeting, take notes.
Yeah.
Take notes.
But don't lose them. Make sure you can read them.
Right? Maybe you grab your iPad and you have a section in your iPad just for notes on meetings, and you identify who is saying what. It doesn't mean that you're going to follow through and do everything that the team is asking, but it allows you to understand where they're coming from and what their concerns are, and also maybe some of their ideas are. That's very important to highlight their ideas. So take notes. That's first and foremost. Secondly, I suggest when you have team meetings, you plan out the meetings for the entire year. It's the same time, the same day, every single month, plan it out for the year. And then what works for me was after our team meetings, the following week, we had our one-on-one meetings, and they were set for the entire year, the same time, the same day, every single month for the whole year. You got to follow through because it's in the calendar. Right? So there's no like, oh, I didn't know, or even on your end, like, oh crap, I forgot that was coming. Like, you're aware because you have it all laid out. So that's the accountability side for you. Be proactive in the way that you're running your business and set yourself up to win, and run your calendar out with these meetings for the year. When it comes to communication, which back in my time of having a business, wasn't that long ago, but things have changed and evolved so much over time. We would communicate through email, or we would communicate through text, which is the worst. Don't ever do that. We had a big communication board in our back room. Now you have things like Trello. I like Asana, ASANA. You can use Asana, and that will allow you to track your tasks. It allows you to see who read what you wrote, and it, because then there's no more excuses like which used to happen to me. I didn't see that text. I didn't see that email. I'm like, really? Because you answered all the hundreds of them that we've had before, but this one that's very important, you didn't see. And it was my fault in the way that I was communicating, right? And I had to make some changes. So Asana is such a great tool to use because it allows you to communicate to the team as a whole, and you can identify tasks and you can assign tasks, kind of like what you're talking about with Trello. But it keeps you accountable. So if you have a meeting coming up, or you have someone that's moving through the growth strategy and they're going to get a promotion, it's coming because you have everything on task, and now to celebrate that. So having something to keep you on task, like a software system like that, is huge. But take notes in your meetings, and maybe you have a software system that you put those notes into, or just a category in your iPad that is specific to the notes for each and every single meeting, so you could go back and read them. And then you can talk about them in the one-on-one coaching sessions.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the other most important part too, for me, has been working on this, is taking a few minutes before the meeting to read my notes beforehand, so I don't miss anything as well too. And I notice that the relationship is built much stronger, and the trust is built stronger as well too, because then they have higher respect.
Yes, absolutely. 1000%.
Well, I just want to, thank you so much for joining us. I love your knowledge that you always share. I love your personality. You give off great energy. How can people find you and sign up for your courses?
Thank you. Well, thank you both so much for having me. I truly admire both of you. I always feel like I learn so much from you. And it's always an honor to sit and chat with you. So thank you so much for having me. And in terms of reaching out, I live on Instagram. You could find me on Instagram at Nina Tulio. So just my name. And if you want to check out my website, it's ninatulio.com. And there are a lot of there's a lot of education. There's a lot of free downloads. There's a profit download that you can grab for free. There's a lot of information that you can find on my website, along with some of the courses and, things that I have coming up too for classes.
Thank you, Nina. You are amazing. One last piece of advice, something that you've been dying to tell salon owners this year.
I think it's making a shift from solely focusing on business growth to focusing on providing growth and opportunity for your team. Because in return, that will spill on over to the growth that you are, looking to achieve in your own business. That would be something that I would want to share with my salon owners out there. And keep doing the damn thing. You got it. I know it's tough, but keep learning and keep keep investing in yourself too. It's very important to invest in your own education.
Yeah, amen. Thank you, Nina. You're awesome.
Thank
We love
you.
you. Bye-bye.